I joined as faculty in anthropology and sociology. Became chair of the Department of Sociology and Social Work. That later expanded. We developed a psychology major. We developed a social work nationally accredited with Dr. Pat Lewis, Dr. Joe Kuna, and all of those folks. We got some grants and some contracts. Started the psychology major. Developed a gerontology major. Got state grants thanks to some work with some wonderful people. Gerontology expanded. Human Service Administration, which later became organizational management, which later morphed into your MBA and those type of things. Began to do a lot of developing contracts down, and we did the prison bit. We started prison programs, did prison programs throughout the state with older prisoners, and developed conferences, workshops with lots of other people, Noel Kelmer and William Yen and all those, to market nationally so people would know what Misericordia was. So we did workshops in San Antonio, Texas, and San Francisco, California, and Madison, Wisconsin, and all those places. So in many ways, Misericordia was known far beyond its geographic area. The nice thing about Misericordia, the nice thing about Misericordia was if you had an idea and it had legs and you could back it up, people were not knowing, we tried that in 1948, we don't want to do that with it. I'd say, yeah, great idea, run with it. And so that was the excitingness about, you could stay in the same place and be different. You create something different.
When I came here, I worked here about 3 weeks, and I said, I like teaching. I like teaching in college. I don't like teaching in high school because I did my student teaching. And so I basically stayed the same place, okay? And I found my niche. Now, that didn't mean I didn't do anything. I was head chair of the department for a long time, chair of the division for a long time.
You're president of the faculty senate?
I was president of the faculty senate a number of times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just had a great time here. And
the nice thing about it, though, Misericordia wasn't welded to its past. They respected its past. Thank God for the founders. Respected its past, but it was about change. The reason why we've been successful is because we've been agile.
Right, and we had really very good leadership. In 1973, we thought we were going to close. And then we got a president, his name was Joe Fink. I don't know when he came exactly.
He came a little later, so
yeah. But we hung on till then, and he just basically turned the place around. That Dave Payne was an admissions director. So, but besides that, then we put in all these developmental education programs. And so we didn't sink to their standards, they came up to ours.
Yeah, I actually think we were, those periods of time, when it's really think about, Don and I were talking earlier, we came at the same time we knew people that graduated in the class of 1924, which is 28. Which is amazing, Mariana Gilday
right.
and all those. So there was that continuity. But the nice thing about it, I mean, there was always adversity at Mr. Court. There were always tough times. There will be tough times ahead in Misericordia. But when the sisters started this place, they weren't welcomed.
You know that story, don't you?
Yeah, and with the Ku Klux Klan on Breon campus, they were not welcome. They persisted. They stayed. They were welcoming their full hospitality, and we got through the 20s. We got through the 40s, 30s, the Great Depression. The 40s got co-education came. That new program development came. We were always.
For example, during the flood, during the flood '72, I had a great job of running security. We only had one security person, so we deputized people. Lee Williams could help you do that. And there was a guy up there who came up and worked, and he lives about a half a mile from here. He said, I've never been on this campus before. I only thought you had one building. So,
and that's the sisters.
So that's kind of illustrates
it. Sisters were reaching out to some extent. You know, this very honest. It was at that point, world was single sex, colleges, universities. And people did it, but it was changing. I mean, I remember thinking when I first arrived here, I was in Macaulay Hall. You were up here, Macaulay Hall, and so I was right down from the Dean of Students' office. Sister Jill, who was a sweet lady who knew the times were a changer, and so I'm sitting there in her office by 4 o'clock, just BSing it, and suddenly a sister, a more traditional sister, showed up with 3 young women dressed in shorts. And the rule of thumb at that time was that you can't be off campus on Lake Street wearing shorts. This is 1970. So she gets him in the car, brings him up there. Sister Joe listens to the sister. Sister Joe thanks the sister. Sister Lee and Sister Joe said, don't walk down Lake Street. You need to walk over to Church Street and then down. And then she turned and said, it's coming. Change is coming.
When we interviewed people, we would ask everybody the same questions, and I did a print on sheet minutes, and everybody put their impressions on for each question.
Okay.
And then after it was done, I was on the hiring committee for the history department.
Okay.
In fact, and I was head of it, and we compare, and we worked it up, and we had one. Well, it didn't last long, not because she did anything bad, but because she got another job. His grandmother lived in Wilkes-Barre, so she knew about, even though she was in Chicago where she was. So we'd have I'm going to talk about history, I don't know about anybody else, but we'd go to the National History Convention for your hiring. I went to, I never got to California during it, but I went to Chicago, I went to New York, I went to Boston, and we would get these, and we got a lot of applications because, you have to understand that PhDs in history were a dime a dozen, and they still are, okay? And so we could get some pretty good people, and we did. But yes, they all fit in. Everybody fit in but one guy, okay? We had a lot of people.
I just jump in there because when I was hired, Sister Regina Kelly, Dr. Regina Kelly, was the vice president for academic affairs. And and I looked like an escapee from the Mercury Sanatorium. Right. I'm not hefty now, but I was more emaciated then. And I've been in Costa Rica and Guatemala. And so came here. Our view was, we're going to hire people who are different than ourselves. She reached out. She reached out purposely to create differences. And she understood diversity, although diversity meant you weren't just hiring people from the valley. It's developed at home. But she was interested in making sure that it was different. You were to do it. There was some of the other colleges hired only their own graduates. Misericordia sub to it. So today, if you look down, Brian Carso, Alan Austin's, Sue Barker, all those people came from someplace else and weren't just Valley. And that was cultures.
Yeah, Alan Austin was the last one I hired.
Yeah.
And he was from Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, they were just from different schools, different places, different views. I think of Sister Constance Cassell, Dr. Cassell, passed this week, that Don and I knew closely, and Gillespie, and she would have these large debates on campus. This was 1971. You may or may not want to assume this old. 1971, in which there are very controversies over women's rights, or reproductive rights, people's rights to choose what roles women can have, who couldn't even get credit cards, got through in their own name. And so Constance would organize these large discussion groups in Kennedy Hart, and she would bring people, and she would tell them, when you come, I want you to talk about those reproductive rights. Please, this is going to be another one going on. But she did it in such a way you could have these discussions with different points of view, shared civilly, rather than people yelling at each other, still go out and have a beer, talk later with students, etc. She had that ability. So Misericordia wasn't cloistered to ideas. It was open to ideas and change, and Sister Miriam Teresa, as much as she sometimes didn't want all the publicity, valued it, and Sister Regina the same way. It is just a place you know that you're going to have. Going to work is not work. Teaching is a mission. Students are by purpose. I mean, we think of things like Becky Grashik, where Don and I are close. They got a Fulbright Fellowship.
No one ever got out of Misericordia. She got it in 1971.
To go to Germany.
Constant was to work on it. She was a history.
Louis Magazine did it on trip. But people just enjoyed being worked. So it was never, I'd come in, I rode a bike, I couldn't, you wouldn't want me to drive, let's put it that way. Unless you said a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. And I'd ride the bus out. I get here, Sister Miriam Teresa would never call classes. I mean, if she could walk from, her office was 50 yards. Where she lives is 50 yards from office. If she could walk there, you're going to have classes. So I'd ride the bus up, and then eventually she'd call classes. Because nobody could make it up. But people came to work. I mean, you know, in some places, you have office hours for faculty, and it says, if you've been to universities, it would be 8 to 9:30 on a Tuesday. So come here, doors are open, offices are there, president's offices are open, deans you can stop by.
I want to give you an example that I'm with now at GA Switch campus in Michigan. And I think the advisor, I was working on my master's, and he had office hours. And the door was closed, and the lights were off. And so he came back 3 or 4 times the same way. So I knocked on the door, he was in there. He didn't want to see a student.
And I appreciate it. I attended a large university, and so I went to see my professor, and I said, my name is Tom O'Neill. He pulled out his book, and he said, well, what's your social security number? I said, what the hell's that? 47, whatever it is. And he had me listed by social security number. And I thought, and there was 700 in the class. So I knew that in Misericordia, you could have classes that were 5, 10, 15, 20, and people, they actually knew you, which is both a blessing and a curse, right? You couldn't hide.
Let me interrupt. I had a psych class. I was a junior med transfer in Michigan, so I should have taken the freshman, but I didn't. There were more people in that class than there were students at Misericordia.
Yeah. And that's not what I want. So I signed up for. That's why I think you can get mesmerized by some things, but remembering when you're big places, you know all your fellow majors and that discipline.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, because we 10,000 history majors. I was finishing a contract, 3rd floor. I had a deadline to get the grant in. I thought I was having a heart attack. I was having an anxiety attack. So they rushed me to the emergency room of the hospital. And they're trying to figure out what's wrong with me. They take me in to do a medical imaging, radiology. They're laying me down, and they're adjusting this radioactive thing above me. And I'm lying there, and the woman, the radiographer, steps back into the room and heard, not her voice, but another voice say, "That's the bastard that gave me a T." And I'm lying here, absolutely. And I've learned a lot of respect. At that point, I came to Jesus because I knew
you didn't last very long.
At 30, I was all right. But essentially, I'm going to be 82, and that woman's going to be there too. So everybody learned to appreciate. So I learned to see it all around.
That's the nice thing about us. It's not so much anymore, but wherever you went, in the medical field, somebody knew you.
Yeah. Exactly. In fact, Dave Payne used to ask, did you graduate from Misericordia? You had a tremendous faith if you did, and a little suspicion if you didn't. Back in 1976, I was chair of behavioral science and social work, and we got an opportunity, got a call to Joe Kuna and myself, that Margaret Mead, who was this world-famous anthropologist, was going to be in the area. Would you like her to stop by Misericordia? Now, she's doing some political things for Jimmy Carter, who was running for president. So we organized it. She came over. We got people on a Saturday morning. There's this woman who did all this fantastic work on Samoa and gender identity and all that. And she comes and delivers this wonderful talk, not on Carter, just on anthropology and things. And we take her back to her next stop is Allentown. And I'm in my office, 3rd floor corridor, where the Atkins is, and I get a call, and it's Margaret Mead. She's at the Museum of Natural History in New York. She said, "Tom, would you think of me if I came back? Could you give me that apartment at McHale Hall? I think to just come back.
That's what he said. Oh, you say, I even stayed one night.
Yeah, and would you go to get the apartment? I'd just like to come back. I went down to Mercy Center. I met the sisters. I talked to sisters. I had the students, and she said it reminded me of what I missed to do it. So she came back on that weekend, hung out, ate in the cafeteria. I had 2 or 3 social work, sociology, psych majors with her to do it. She did it because there was something. She said later, there is something about the place. And that was 1977. There's something about the place in 2024 too, so we're doing something. Misericordia was, before that, we were, it was hard to get publicity in the papers. It was hard to get anything because Kings and Wilkes died, with a bad mouth, but Kings and Wilkes were talking to the premier, and so they controlled the press, etc.
So we're the only hospital on the west side of the river.
That's
They
right.
turned the whole
So-
place into a hospital.
Yeah, so it becomes here. So 58, I think 50-some babies are born in Alumni Hall.
They had a reunion after the
That's right, on their 16th anniversary for Theater on the Green, we brought up the students back, and they got a little scholarship when it came. But that's, for some people, you still run into people saying, I was born in Alumni Hall. It's oh, yeah, that's a story, right? That people don't remember. That was when somebody said about Kenny Fisher, he taught professor of English, was lamenting. He said the only thing good that came out of the flood of 1972 was it kept his father from talking about the flood in 1936. So
I knew his father.
that's the line for old people. So we were always here. One of the nice things that somebody said is, what Joe think? The sisters were about purpose. They were about starting a college, educating children and coal miners, doing all those things to do it. But they somehow kept their light under the basket. They didn't beat their chest and do what others did. Joe came along, and Joe reached out to community. We became a place to be. He wanted people here. He wanted people. He knew that's how you market. You don't go into a place you don't know. So he did all of that. So we did that. And we suddenly began that trajectory out of the light under the basket. And
Tom, I think the flood had a lot to do with because so many people on campus here. I mean, because we had the evacuees here. They took over, I don't know how many there were over 100.
Yeah, and you had people coming out. People moved back. The demography changed. This was a rural, small town. Now a pretty solid suburban. It's a great place. Timing is everything. Timing in a flood. One guy, you're in philosophy, taught philosophy, Cronk.
Yeah, George Cronk.
George Cronk was actually a great musician. He played He played at in New York clubs, and he was just a really great musician with a group whose now names escapes me. He came here, and George, if the Vietnam War was going on, some people on campus knew it, other people didn't, and George would be there and to do it, and so he was
He got an anarchist to come one time.
he had anarchists. George was just a delight. Last time I saw him, he was in New York, and he was on teaching class for Columbia or something like that on television in New York. So there were really some great. Don Inverso, this quiet individual, was a concert pianist and an interested student.
I think he taught philosophy, didn't he?
Taught philosophy as well. Collins, who actually went on to teach at McGill, I took his place. Was there. So there was lots of you. Lee Williams
He ended up being a dean in the college in Texas.
Texas people came through. Joe Kuhn, who became head of child welfare for the city of Philadelphia, was here.
Who was a woman?
There was there's a lady. She was brilliant. She was a psychoanalyst. I guess mixed up. She's a psychoanalyst. in psychoanalyst. And so I hired for the University of Chicago. She taught much and been a grant, so we hired her. And she riding on the bus, and she was telling me about this kid who was in psychoanalysis. He was 8 years old. She said, about 12 years old. Said, had him for a few more years, I mean, he would have been much better. I said, how long was he in therapy? She said, 8 years. I thought, well, go much too long. But she was just really good. And so lots of people came through, but lots of people came through. Some chose to stay, some didn't. Who was the guy who went for, eventually became a historian for the State Department?
Oh, yeah, I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
He was only here a couple of years. We had a big, in the early 70s, we were in such trouble, they had to reduce the faculty. And what my sheriff, Louis, which is that guy, they said, what he did is he was going to hire people when they got here. Now, he said, it's the only way I can do this. In other words, I got to do it, and I can't pick between you and you because you're both good teachers, so we'll do it by seniority. Unfortunately, when I first came here, there were big plans for the history department. And after I got here in 71 or 69, they hired 2 more people. So they left, and he was one of them.
Yeah, he was.
He was from Illinois someplace. Yeah. And he did work for the State Department, wrote white papers.
Yeah, so there's lots of people coming through. And sweet, the nice thing I loved about Misericordia was in some places, faculty, there was a faculty club, excuse me, faculty club. And so faculty hang with faculty, staff hang with staff, the maintenance hangs with maintenance. Misericordia wasn't true. People, but when we would go to lunch, we went to lunch. There was a faculty dining room, but nobody went to it.
Well,
except 2
some
who
people
were scared of students. So they went there. And otherwise we'd go eat in the cafeteria, you'd be eating with biology professors, you'd be eating with students, you'd be eating with the electrician. And so there was a sense of leveling.
It was like we all worked together.
Yeah, we
and
worked
both people
together.
had that.
And they felt the same. And you can still see that, I think. We'll speak later. But when you walk across campus, people say hi to each other. They know each other. Even though this place was small, believe me. So it was really small. There was a little, when I first came here, this is a story. When I first came, remember down there's Macaulay and Mercy Hall. Do you remember St. Joe's Carpenters, the hall?
Yeah, sure.
St. Joe's Hall. There's a little hall where the Shakespearean garden is. It was a little hall. They called it St. Joseph's Hall.
That was maintenance.
It was maintenance, but before that it was a gym.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's some wonderful pictures of sisters in their habits, basketball, which were priceless to do it. It then became a maintenance shed. Then there was Regina Hall, which is, they tore it down, McDonald Art Gallery, and then later Polly Freeman's come through. It was a little place. That was a faculty. We have faculty meetings.
Yeah, we did. That was a house.
Faculty, yeah, we had faculty meetings there. But
I painted.
You painted it?
Yeah. Used to paint in summertime. You really couldn't make any money.
Oh, that's not true. You could make money because you needed to hustle contracts. But you did a good job. You did. You were really good. But there was just a sense of people knowing each other. Campus is big now, but I don't know whether that's still the same. I hope it is. But it's that important. When we were leaving, there used to be little receptions we would have here on Fridays. Do you still have those receptions? And people would come. And people, even though it was big, you could begin to, people open doors.
Now, my wife and Cindy King were the secretary here, my wife in this profession. They decided they wanted to start the third public party, so we'd had it for Christmas Day. We'd like to invite all the faculty and my students to get out
That's cool.
We invited everybody.
It was wonderful because they used to have chill races down the
Oh, God. Then the maintenance had to come the next day and fix the wall.
I'm just surprised now the workman compensation didn't go through the roof there.
They got crazy. I was always in them.
But they did it. There was people, I hope there's that saying, the thing that I remember most when I came, I felt home, and comfortable, I guess, and home and comfortable, sense of community. I hope that's still there because that's what the sisters gave us from 24 was a sense of hospitality to do it, and we know it's different now.
Yeah. Well, it has to be, for the fact that it's so large, it's spread all over the place.
Absolutely.
I mean, at one time, all the faculty were up here.
Yeah.
So then you got to know all the nurses, you got to know all the business faculty. And so it was, and with that change, well, by 1980, I suppose, but nevertheless, so you kind of lost that, but you still knew it.
I just got to tell you one thing. This is just me. I know what I've mentioned this, but Macaulay Walsh was Macaulay Hall. Is that where you guys are now? Okay. Macaulay Hall was a women's residence hall when I first came here. The first floor of that, where the theater was there, was my offices and a number of other offices when I first came. Sociology with Sister Marie Tunbach. And so we had that, but below that was the gym, down on the ground. And then you had the theater, and then you had a women's dormitory above that. If I die, I want to go to heaven. I want to just meet the architects that I got a great idea. We're going to have a gym in the basement. It was so small. How many laps to a mile?
24.
24 laps to a mile. Can you imagine that? It was so
My wife was such a great
The walls
runner.
were there. It's now the communications department. Hope I get to see it. So, communication department. You watch these basketball games and you watch people crashing into the wall there. It was just horrible. And then the theater would be upstairs. They'd be doing a theater. You hear the basketball downstairs. You'd hear the theater upstairs. And then you'd hear students in the dormitory out. It was delightfully bizarre. The Ford Foundation. It still used to be a plaque. The Ford Foundation in the 50s gave the sisters some money, as I understand it, to build the theater and so we had that. Later we got a Ford Foundation grant. Remember, Don, you were on that committee with me. And we had Sister Regina Kelly, Dr. Kelly. We had the $500,000 grant, which was in 1970s, was good dollars. And so we could have a competition of what we wanted to do with it. Sister Regina Kelly, God love her, wanted everybody to be different. University was a Shakespeare scholar. She wanted to spend all that money on a Shakespearean garden, and our nose was just above water. But we got the Shakespearean garden. We got psychology majors. You got all of those type of things. But I'm always curious about that.
I walked in here the first day and walked in Regina Kelly's office. I had the job before I left. She had on her desk with pictures from Stratford, Ontario. And I used to go there every year for about 30 years, okay? With two wives, different time. And we started talking about Stratford, and then I might have job. Well, then there's something else happened. This illustrates something. I didn't know what, I had not been having anything much to do with Catholics. I thought they had their own textbooks and things like that. And so I asked Lloyd, who was hired me, he said, show me the textbook. It was a major textbook in Houston those days. And I finally said to Regina Kelly, I said, well, I'm not Catholic. And she said, well, I don't know, I don't know what you want me to do with history. Are you going to teach history? Yes. Well, that's what we want you to do. And so you have these are things I had in my mind before I got here. And have been.
Carry your baggage with. Can I tell you a Regina Kelly story? I arrived here, as I said, I looked like an escapee for a tubercular sanitarium, and I had very long hair, driving a Volkswagen bus. I don't tell you one of the story, but Volkswagen bus. So my mother had her. I was living at Harvey's Lake. My mother, they're always 27 years old, but my mother's worried. She calls Regina Kelly. So she begins to have this relationship with the vice president I don't even know. And she's talking, they talked about Ireland, they talked about all that. Regina would call her up, she would call her. And finally, my mom said, Regina, is there anything you can do to get Tom to cut his hair? And so she came up to me, oh my God, here I am. I'm a professor at a place like this, and my mom's calling me to cut my hair. And Regina said, don't worry about it. I finished in 2015. I stepped down as dean in 2009, 2010, and with Tun, a sweet man who's still in Myanmar, who I still communicate with. I mean, just a sweet fellow. And I still continued working with Mike McDowell, Dean Emeritus, and then continued to teach. In fact, 215 last class I teach, I left there. And then I taught a summer class. That's Karen Suffalo was in that class. Never met her till today, but she was a good writer. And so I did that, and I thought, what am I going to do? This is what I did for 45 years. Teaching is hard work. If you do it well, it's damn hard work to do it, and I couldn't do it, and I couldn't compete with it. I got to say this: the quality of our faculty now is probably better than it's ever been. I mean, you just look at Brian Carso in his books, Karen Black in her books, the folks at OT, the Alan Austins, the
English was the guy in the English department. I don't know. Something.
I mean, we have wonderful faculty who are still doing what, in some places, you get to be a wonderful research faculty, you quit interacting with students. The Iverberg, you teach one course to doctoral students over 2 years at Penn to do it. That's not here. The same people that are doing these books and the research are sitting with you working on your papers and critiquing your things, and it's coming by where you can just tell Becky Steinberg, I mean, these people are doing the things, they're teaching, and it wasn't they're publishing and they're thriving and the students are doing it too. I mean, that science building we needed that science building for a very long time. And once we got it, we saw the quality of the faculty and the quality of students and the physical facilities. And that's the other thing. I just want to say, we can focus on faculty all you want, but you need support. So if I was a student, I'd say, what do you want? You're going to have quality faculty, credentialed faculty in fields that have the accreditations you want, the support system, the things that they're doing. My granddaughter chose to go to American University and DC, which is a great school, and they can do it. But she doesn't have the support service. You can't walk in to some place like we can to see their professors and do that. So you got to think of the whole thing, the athletics, the chances to participate. Gee, Don, we'd continue to participate in athletics. Those types of things, you have the opportunities to do that. So I thought, it's your whole self and not just your degree, your major self.
But I must have want like someday I'll stand and teach you 5 times.
Well, you were good.
I was so prepared that they thought I was winging it. And I'm really good at one-liners. Like, if I had a student come up and say, if I MC something for what they're doing, I said, I can't. I said, I play off what's coming out of my head. And I say most of these things to myself that they found them funny. And there's something else I did. I have a theory that a kid always has to have an out. And I did flunk people. I gave more D's than I gave F's, but I did flunk people. But I would say to a person who was doing bad, I said, look, you still have your final paper and you have the test. And if you study really hard, I can probably give you a D. And most of them, at the time, they respond. So they listen, the students were their own percentage sometimes, of course. But once I said, I just said this thing about, I have 2 things I hated to do. I hated firing somebody. I did it twice in my career. It tore me up. And then giving Fs. But even if I had to, but it was mostly D's and things like that. So they always seemed I think he'd save himself even at the end. And I think they would like that.
Why don't you just go by Don's? I think your teacher there 5 years. to do it. And people knew you and you loved your stories, and you were gifted that.
Yeah, I'm a storyteller.
You're a story.
I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
And I told us a story. And what I really was proud of, I don't want to pat myself in the back because I have arthritis, but I won the very first outstanding teacher, 1979. I won it at least once in 4 decades. I won the last one in 2000. And so the reason I'm proud of that, I still had it,
That's good. But you also you knew that sometime there was time to go too, because because the styles of teaching and learning.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I wouldn't be a success here now. I didn't want to teach, lecture.
Good.
And I'm sure that people still lecture, but they'll just lecture.
Good. And there's that. And that's the evolution.
Yeah, and I knew it. I saw that coming.
Probably the end of the semester, but no, I think the ability to facilitate them conversations, to do it. I either had to, you love me or you hate it. One of the two, fair shots to do it. I wanted to be challenging. I wanted it to be a stretch to do it. I wanted to be as comprehensive as I could be to do it. But essentially, learning there's two things of it. Teaching and learning and teaching. Dewey says, the best is when you're a teacher, learner, teacher. I went to classes in which I came out knowing much more than when I went in, because the student's perspectives, you're sitting here when you're teaching at 25 versus when you're teaching at 70, you better be on a learning curve. Because I will tell you this. This is an example when I realized this. You will remember it. 1970s, we're going through turmoil, 70s, early 80s, and the Weather Underground. That's your boys from the University of Michigan. Weather Underground is there, and there's controversy and there's riots and there's bombings, etc. And so years later, I'm in the class. I'm discussing counterculture, cultures that are in opposition to dominant cultures and want to overturn the revolutionary symbol. And the student says, "Can you give me an example?" I said, "Yeah, the weatherman." And I go on, and the person said, "What does a meteorologist VOCA have to do?" Oh my God, my examples. And this is tick, 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 tick. And now you either better come up with some new exam boozy or find the exit door. It was a great example, wrong one in trying to.
Well, that's another reason why I was so popular. No one had to remember dates.
That's good.
I said, I'm going to give you the date, and so I said, put in the ballpark. But you'll never have to know a date. And I'll be really PO'd if you put a date in the wrong line. Everyone saw it.
Did you ever do the New York Times one where you have to, now they don't know that you have to decide, was this event before or after this event?
Right.
Your kids would know that.
They probably not. It was a story, Tom.
I think one of the things you talk about is, what do you remember? And sometimes they're not the biggest things you remember, but I think it talks about music. When I was talking to Donald Whale, that elevator that Misericordia is, that was fast we came up on, but in the old days, you could have started there and retired until you got to the 4th floor. And probably got tenure about the 3rd floor, because of the rules at that time. But Sunday, I'm standing there on the 1st floor, I've been down the 1st floor, I push the button for the elevator and I start daydreaming. Waiting for the elevator, know it's going to take forever. The door opens and there's a llama looking at me, a Peruvian llama, straight up. I let out this god-awful scream, basically a sum of all my fears anyway. And he let off all this scream there. And I look up, and again, and there's Dennis Fisher, who was a professor at that time in social work.
And his wife worked on it.
His wife, Carol, works on the 3rd floor in the AOP program. And I said, "Oh my God." He said, "Oh, Tom, it's all right." So now looking head on to this llama. And meanwhile, evidently, some people reported this to
Well, yeah,
security.
tell him what he's doing.
So he's taken up to see Carol on her birthday, right? To greet her on her birthday present. Birthday present because he's got a llama from Peru. Now that's a birthday gift that keeps on giving. But anyway, meanwhile the security is running through the car. And there's a wonderful guy, Tom.
Ticket
who was Tom. It was a great, new students, knew everybody, just great. And he's running with a walkie-talkie. He's yelling, llama in the elevator, llama in the elevator, llama in the building. And he's very excited by it, and he's running, and he runs up to me, and I'm looking in the elevator door, and Dennis is there, the llama is there, and Tom and the llama, Tom and Dennis begin to have a conversation about is it appropriate to have a llama in an elevator. And I thought, oh, there's something playful about misericordia. If you keep it all in perspective, that's playfulness.
They raised llamas. They had a whole bunch of them, alpacas. They lived out in the country in the farm. And I was out there a few times. Deb and I were out there a few times. It was way out in 29, almost impossible to find.
God, it was amazing. But that was the thing. You could do those. There was a joy. We can't tell all the stories, but Dave Payne used to, God bless me, lift the president's stationery from his office and then write memos. This would be pre-email that were rather interesting, funny memos. One of them he did read. He wrote on the president that Commonwealth Telephone Company is going to be fleshing out the telephone lines. And so what everybody on 8:30 on Monday morning, take a handkerchief and put it over the cusp of the phone and put a rubber band around it when they're flushing the lines out.
Yeah, that was my favorite finish.
Okay, that's it. And people were doing it. It's because Misericordia were creative, but were compliant. And it came on the president's stationery, so.
Well, that was my favorite. We had a guy named Bill Burns to school. In those days, you get books in padded envelopes, and you're a thick envelope. You probably still do. So they wrote a memo says, Bill Burns is going to insulate his house with these padded envelopes. So start giving me your padded envelope. He had about 50 of them before they go. Yeah. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And grow.
Yeah. Be agile. Be open to change. Don't try to just replicate the past, but use the past to inform your future to do it. And remember, this is not all of your education, it's just part. So it's time to grow developmentally, socially, in terms of we get so fixated that we think that this is it. Enjoy some of it. Learning is like work is fun, learning is fun. It can be painful at times, but it's fun. Do it. And be open to the fact that what we're doing now may not be what we're doing 40 years from now. And that's okay. Because if you've got a good solid, you can think creatively, you have a sense of history and past, you understand the sociology of change, you do all those things, your fields will change. But the key is, can you adapt? My son is, this we not want to put on you. My son was a history major and philosophy major, 2.38. Because particular faculty member he couldn't stand, but he had to take him, we kind of kept failing him, which was good enough. That was good too. That was good too for him. He now is very successful and is still another major international chemical firm, etc. But he always about learning. He loved art, he loved music, he loved theater, he loved philosophy, he loved history.
He was a good artist too.
Yes, and he was a good artist. He just didn't always love it in 18-week semesters to do it. But what he learned was, and he now is valued in his company, not for just what he knows, which is ITs and creative problem solving, but he knows art, he knows music, he knows, so take advantage of all of those things and allow just the tunnel vision of I'm the social worker.
I'm pretty sure I was his advisor.
What's that?
I'm pretty sure I was his advisor.
Well, that's what, did you ever meet him? No.
No, I said, Mom, the door closed.
No, we do. Yeah, exactly. My daughter came, my daughter made a mistake. Here, it was frankly hit the building. And I'll tell you why she's not coming to Misericordia in just a minute. She came time for class and she went to LaSalle. And we took her around 8 years back. She went to LaSalle, had a good education at LaSalle, but she didn't want to be in a place where everybody knew her dad. And this is why we organized the first senior Olympics on the East Coast with Joe Kuna. The first one was at USC. The second one in the world is at Misericordia. We invite 600 or 700. They take part in activities and athletic events, etc. And so Aaron is helping. He's helping me. And she's 6 years old. We're 5 or 6 years old. And so the students standing around, and students are helping. And so one of the students was talking about, I gotta get back and get that damn sociology done. I said, who do you have? And she says, I said, oh, that's my daddy. I said, oh, what a sweet man he is. Then Erin is 6 years old. She said, I know you weren't a sweet man. So she decided to go someplace else.
Home. Home. I always felt comfortable here. I do now. I feel relaxed. I do now. And when I left Misericordia, I thought I would never teach again. Why? I was good at it, but I was done with it. But just coming here today, I've been up here before and did some mental hospital stuff out there. Very tired. But it's just really nice to be here.
I like that concept of home. Because home is a number of things.
This is where they have to take you. We have no place else to go.
Yeah.
Robert Frost wrote that.
Yeah, right. But there is something there. You can go home again. You can go home again, and you can experience it again. I mean, we were doing, and as I passed there, we would walk across this campus. 99% of us won't know us. Don left in 206. I left in 215, and things have changed. But I bet they'll say hello. I bet we'll feel comfortable. We'll see buildings. So there is something about coming back, and not that Misericordia was a safe place. It was a challenging place, but it was a place that were comfortable. You weren't out of your element. You knew that this was. I go through the gate. I have the same damn feeling every time I pass through that gate, that door, to do it.
Yeah, I have much else to say. It's just so you always feel comfortable. Always did.
No, thank you.
After about my first year, of course.
True. Actually, the first year, there was I got to tell you one story about the dean. There was a dean, Marvin. He can have told us it. Marvin was a type of.
First of all, he was our first lay dean.
He was our first lay dean, and he was from the University of Notre Dame, and he was not tall, but he insisted on wearing a Notre Dame leather jacket to do it. It was a dean, and he was a very competitive fellow. Jack Hoover was the controller at the time, and Jack Hoover, there's a trick in which you can pick up a chair with one hand to do it, but you gotta know what you're doing. So Jack says, Marvin comes in and does push-ups. This is the controller, that push-up. Jack said, can you pick up the chair? And he goes like this, back to Jack. Marvin storms out. And so I came down to the office about 30 minutes later, and I said to, I forget, she's the secretary, Dower, Barry Dower, and I said, what's up? She said, I don't know what the hell is happening in that dean's office, but things are going up and down, and Marvin's in there trying to, so.
Well, I got, you told us all that story. So I was on there, he was doing push-ups, and he says, do you do push-ups? I said, only one hand.
Rob,
And I had never done any push-ups in my life.
Marvin would spend his
Well, the
life.
next time I came, he did it.
I actually tell you the truth. I stayed away from the guy.
I know.
Within my first year, I thought I'm on a bit of thin ice here for any number of reasons, and I want to be careful to do it. So, Barb, I was in. There was only one men's bathroom in the whole barn.
It was on
Next to the print
ground floor.
Ground floor, and it was
You
small.
should see us run.
You'd have to get all the way out to get to the men's bathroom. There's like a urinal and one stall for whatever it is.
Well, most of this faculty were women when we came here.
Yeah, that's true. But it's still, there was a need to have them. Marvin, I stayed away from. He resigned, and I was in the men's bathroom, and he came back. He said, "Don't I know you?" And this is April, and I knew he'd resigned. I said no, and kept going. And you look back at the history, somebody who managed, that's a lifestyle, that's not going to reoccur. And over the history, the times there were monastic orders came and went. This is invigorating, though, that that's why I think that you're all curious. We've got to become more inclusive. We've got to become more, but we've done a lot. I mean, our Diversity Institute that began long before anybody else in this area discovered diversity as an institute was there. Our commitment to diversity has not been passive. We got to be more rigorous. We got to reach out to do it, but we're doing it. You're inclusive by lots of ways: class, race, ethnicity, religion, perspectives to do it.